It's summer 2025 anime season is here, and the only thing I've watched this week that's new is DanDaDan season 2, which I said 2 weeks ago when I talked about the summer season slate. DanDaDan season 2 was the one thing I was actually excited for. Um, there's a lot of other shows that interest me. There's a couple that. Sorry, I have some dirty laundry in the background. Uh, that's probably gonna bother me. Uh, Hold on. I need to change this. But there are a couple other things that I will be watching this season. I just haven't had a whole lot of time this week. Actually, that's a lie. I just haven't been using my time to watch anime. Anyway, welcome to Media's live show, episode 7, not episode 77. I need to fix that. Yeah, episode 7. I just noticed that I mistyped. Got a couple things I want to talk about this week, mostly DanDaDan related. Uh, but before we get into that, most of my week has actually been spent playing Zelda, which happens with some level of frequency. Uh, I just a couple months ago, actually, I think it was like back in December. I tried doing like a challenge run on Tears of the Kingdom and ended up overwriting my save, losing all my hundreds of hours of progress and uh, side questing in that. And I've been slowly redoing the entirety of Tears of the Kingdom. And I really did it in earnest this week. I now have like I think I'm a third of the way through the Korok seeds, uh, and I've done all the shrines and light roots and a bunch of other stuff. Did a lot of Zelda this week, as well as catching up on Game Grumps playthrough of Minish Cap. I had Ruby on in the background for a lot of it. I would like just play it on like this screen here, and then on my side screen where I have OBS right now, I would have Ruby on in the background, and I got some interesting details. I tweeted about one of the details that I caught on that. Sup, Cloudy? Welcome to the show. Um, we are actually trying to get the guys back together sometime this month to talk about Volume 10. And in doing so, we'll talk about like the the epilogue. We never did a video. We never did a podcast on the Volume 9 epilogue. I haven't actually sat down and watched it. I only just found out that the epilogue exists, like in a way that you could actually watch it, a few weeks ago, actually. So I know that they played some clips and stuff at like the last RTX, which was like 2 years ago at this point, before Rooster Teeth shut down. I know that like the footage existed, but I didn't know where to like find it, and I was also like just super burnt out on Ruby. Did not care, did not want to watch any more of it, did not want to consume any more of it, did not want to talk about it, and so I was avoiding the any leaks or anything about it. But I'll have to for that video, for that podcast, as well as I'll have to watch the Justice League crossovers as well, even though I really just do not care about the Justice League. Anyway. What else? What else? What else this week? I did a lot of reading of my fan fiction. I started reading live Stark Tales of the Old Huntsman here on the show last week. There will be. I at least want to do Stark Tales of the Old Huntsman, Ruby on Veil, Ruby on Destiny. Ruby on Destiny, I could actually knock out in a single stream. That it's only 7 chapters long. It'll take me like an hour to read through it. I want to do that, and I would also like to do Ruby on War, because like thinking about it, like Ruby on War is the one that I think I had the most fun working on out of the entire Ruby on saga. It's the one I look back on the most fondly. But I was actually like kind of cherry picking bits from Ruby on Generations and Ruby on Home, because I don't remember hardly anything that happens in those two stories, despite them being the two more recent Ruby on stories. Like they were the last two that I did, and I didn't remember hardly anything about them. So I cherry picked some chapters and gave myself a bit of a refresher. So I can maybe talk about it at length instead of spending 7 or 8 streams trying to read them all. Next thing I want to talk about a little bit is Call of the Night. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I did watch a few episodes of Call of the Night. I have not finished season 1 yet. I think I'm like 4 episodes in. 3 or 4 episodes in. So I'm not very deep. And it does tie into what I want the main article for this show to be, which is like gatekeeping and like portrayal versus endorsement, as it pertains particularly to anime, because the anime community online has a serious problem with that. But I wanted to just kind of point out that I have an easier time getting into anime that are focused on like high school aged characters than middle school aged characters. And Call of the Night features a main character who is explicitly in middle school. And I think that is actually a good choice for the kind of story Call of the Night is, because it's basically ugh, sorry. Ugh. Don't know what came over with me there. Call of the Night is basically anime's answer to Let the Right One In. Let the Right One In is I want to say like a modern classic. It's not that old. It came out like, I want to say 2008. It's a Swedish horror film about a young, depressed loner boy who befriends his neighbor, who is this really cute girl who happens to be a vampire. And it's this kind of like really cutesy coming of age story, this kind of like blossoming adolescent romance. It's like the first time that he's ever felt this way about someone, and she's catching feelings as well, and they are both like very young. Like I think he's like 12 in the movie, and she's technically like in her 50s or 60s, but she was turned into a vampire when she was 12, and so she's been stuck at that age and has a lot of like angst about that. And also, it is still very much a horror movie. She kills, or actually it's her like older friend who's been taking care of her and protecting her, is going out and like is a serial killer, going out killing these people and bringing her their blood so that she doesn't have to do it herself. And it did get an American remake a few years after it came out called Let Me In, that had Cody Smith-McPhee and Chloe Grace Moretz as the two leads, and that was also really good. Let the Right One In is one of the best vampire movies. It's there's actually a lot of really good vampire movies, like for real. But I would put Let the Right One In my top 10. Like I would put it up there with like let's see. Let's just rattle off my favorite vampire movies. I would have to say like Dracula, kind of normie choice. Bram Stoker's Dracula from the 90s with Gary Oldman as Dracula. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. That would be up there. Interview with the Vampire with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, that's probably my favorite vampire movie. I haven't thought about it in a while. It's basically Forrest Gump meets vampires, uh, except it's not. It's not. It's a life story of a vampire throughout like the centuries. It's a really great movie. Uh, I have a soft spot for Lost Boys. I have a soft spot for Lost Boys. I have a soft spot for do I want to 30 Days of Night. I actually have a soft spot for Blade. The first two Blade movies are great. Underworld. I actually really love the first two Underworld movies. Uh, kind of a little bit of an inspiration for Night Watch. Actually, the Death Dealers are a thing in Night Watch. Completely different purpose, and I just really like the name Death Dealers. I think Harry Potter also uses a group called the Death Dealers, but I got the term from Underworld. Uh, yeah, let the right one in would probably be number 6 or 7. Let's actually like Google what the normies' choice of like best vampire movies. The 30 essential vampire movies according to Rotten Tomatoes. Blackula, that's fun. Daybreakers is good. I'm actually gonna pull this up here. This is the top 30 vampire movies according to Rotten Tomatoes, which is not a great source, but it was the first thing that came up on Google. Hold on, let me. That's my image display capture, video capture. There we go. Yeah, Blackula is fun. Blaxploitation, not the kind of thing you could get away with today. Daybreakers is great. I really did enjoy that one. 30 Days of Night is fun. I'm not super fond of the vampires in that because they're just monsters. It might as well be a zombie movie. The Hunger, never seen it. Twilight. Why is Twilight on this list? God damn it, I hate Rotten Tomatoes. Never seen Shadow of the Vampire. From 2000. It's got John Malkovich and Willem Dafoe in it. The Fearless Vampire Killers, or Pardon Me, But Your Teeth Are in My Neck. That is a title. Directed by Roman Polanski, though, so I'm not going to support that. I put my money where my mouth is, and I don't like to criticize art based on the people that work on it, but I do make financial decisions based on that. There's very few things that'll make me not, and there are very, very few things that'll make me not want to ever support your endeavors ever again. Roman Polanski did one of those things that crosses the line. Near Dark. I don't think I ended up watching that one. Didn't watch Martin either, or Ganja and Hess. I have seen Black Sunday. That's a good one. Don't remember. Yeah, Gothic Splint. Yeah, I recognize that cover. Don't remember much about it though. Didn't see Kronos. I do know about Kronos though. That was like one of Guillermo del Toro's first movies when he was young up and coming director. Vampire Hunter D is a classic. That was like a really big inspiration for every horror anime since. Fright Night is a classic. It's super cheesy though. The remake with David Tennant sucks though. Blade. already talked about. Underworld already talked about. From Dusk Till Dawn. I actually didn't care for From Dusk Till Dawn. Um, Felt like it tried too hard to be one thing and the other, but it had like two separate movie ideas, and it didn't do anything to like mix the two or make it in an interesting way. It's just a Tarantino film in the first half and a Robert Rodriguez film in the second half, and the two don't actually like coalesce into anything interesting. I did hear about A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. I didn't end up watching it though. Same thing with Thirst. I remember when Thirst came out. Uh, Never even heard of Only Lovers Left Alive. Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's the Francis Ford Coppola one that I talked about. Horrors of Dracula. That's Hammer Films. That's one of the Christopher Lee Dracula movies. I think it's the first of the Christopher Lee Peter Cushing Dracula movies. Considering it's on this list and right underneath 1931's Bela Lugosi Dracula, I'm gonna assume that Horrors of Dracula was the first. There was like 5 of them. Uh, Nosferatu, the vampire from 1979. Eh. I honestly think the original Nosferatu is a bit overrated. Um, it's actually really hard to watch. It's hard to watch the original version of it. And not for any like content reasons. It's just however they preserved the film. I was not around in the 1920s, so I don't know if it was like this the entire time or if this was just a byproduct of the preservation process or if it happened later on. Um, but the it is literally hard to watch. Like it is just blinding. Whatever they physically did to that film made it difficult to actually sit through. There is a tinted version. If you ever want to try to check out the original 1920s Nosferatu, I highly recommend the tinted version. You can actually tell what's going on. Vampire from 1932. That's a classic, great movie. Lost Boys have a soft spot for it. Uh, I didn't realize that was so beloved. I always consider this kind of like a cheesy, not quite Brat Pack type 80s movie, but I never really held it in like high regard. Interview with Vampires, great. Uh, what We Do in the Shadows, what the fuck? What is this doing in the number 3 spot? What? Like, it's fine. It's alright. But, like, really? Really? Then Let the Right One In is number 2. I don't think it deserves to be that high up, but it is excellent. And then number 1, they have the 1922 version of Nosferatu. You almost have to have it at least in the top 5 just out of like respect for the art of filmmaking, because Nosferatu was a major pioneer in film, just through across all genres. Like it was the first to do a lot of things that we kind of take for granted nowadays. Um, but like I said before, whatever they physically did to that film to make it like so bright made it nauseating for me personally. But yeah, Call of the Night is basically anime Let the Right One In. It is really what I wanted, where I wanted to go with this. Sorry. Oh, oh. There we go. That's what I wanted. Uh, Vampires as a concept are interesting. Uh, because they appear in most cultures, but are different across various cultures. There's no like one unifying canon for what a vampire is or isn't. Uh, but they are usually a personification of temptation, and that's where a lot of the like psychosexual undertones of vampire media come in, because there is nothing more tempting than companionship. You know, when you meet someone who is good looking and seemingly treats you right, you want to try to like make excuses for them, and there's just a lot you can do with that, and it has been done numerous times, especially in Dracula adaptations, but also even something like Twilight. Uh, and Call of the Night is really like hammering in that companionship temptation. This like at first, this vampire chick, she just likes the taste of his blood, but he's like desperate to like fall in love with her because he wants to become a vampire, and this is where a lot of the weaknesses of vampires come in, because for so often, especially across European folklore, vampires are demons. uh there's even interpretations of vampires where they were never human. They are just creatures of the night, born of Satan himself, and that's why they are so averse to like religious artifacts. Dresden Files does this, where it doesn't even have to be specifically like Christian. Like, so long as something is symbolic of someone else's faith, it will be strong against vampires. That's kind of how Dresden Files does this, which is a way better explanation than fucking Netflix Castlevania's Reddit r/atheism ass explanation, like, oh, vampires are apex predators, they're scared of right angles, even though every single apex predator in the animal kingdom actually fucking loves right angles. Like, it's just such a oh, I like Netflix Castlevania a lot. That line alone damn near ruined the entire series. It is just the dumbest thing to happen in an otherwise decent show ever. Like, it is up there. It's just one of the stupidest writing choices in an otherwise decent show. Um, or even just one of the stupidest writing choices, period. Because there are some dumb shows with a lot of dumb writing decisions that never stoop to that level. That's why vampires are weak to the sun. The sun is this universal symbol of God. Every culture ever has worshipped the sun to some extent. Even like the Bible constantly likens God to the sun, or to light personified, and the sun is, to our human perception, the greatest source of light. So there's a lot of overlap there. Uh, Soul. The reason why Christianity celebrates Christmas on December 25th was because every religion has a holiday celebrating the solstice, but the prevailing culture of pre-Roman Catholic Europe was the Soul festival. The solstice, winter solstice, the longest night of the year, is one of the days of celebration for Sol, the Roman god of the sun, who is called Helios in Greek. Uh, and they kind of like co-opted a lot of those same ideas into uh, the early Catholic Church that then still persists to this day. Yeah, it's not like a UV aversion to, or a skin condition, or a biological anomaly. It is literally the vampire's curse in nature, making them weak to sunlight. And I play around with kind of both ideas in Night Watch with the vampires there. The only vampire that has appeared across the first four books. Book four is coming sometime this year. I just really need to save more money to get it out there, cover publishing costs. But the only vampire across the first several Nightwatch books is Crimson, and he doesn't necessarily like burn up in the sun because he wears protective gear, but he does have a weakness to sunlight, and it is stated explicitly that like those who consume the life force of others are called vampires. A vampire is a classification of mage. They can be human or Demoran that gains power by drinking the life essence of someone else. Usually, not always, but usually through consuming the consumption of blood. And when you do that, you start developing certain weaknesses to things like silver and garlic and sunlight because of the power that those things have over the concept of life and death. And there's a spiritual religious slant to Night Watch that hasn't really come into focus as of book 4 and won't for a while, but it is there. I did not expect to talk about Call of Night and vampires for 25 minutes, so let's rapidly fire off some other things that I will be watching or need to catch up on. I need to watch the last 2 episodes of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. I need to watch the first episode of My Dress Up Darling Season 2 and Rascal Does Not Dream of Santa Claus. Those are... I'm actually hoping for a shorter stream this week so I can knock those out tonight and talk to you guys about them next week. Ranger Reject. The manga was on hiatus for a while because of Neji Haruba's frequently bad health. It's back. I think I'm a few chapters behind now. I was several chapters behind when it went on hiatus, and I was waiting on it for it to get back from hiatus before jumping back in. This could be the final arc, and if it is, then I will dedicate a whole stream to recapping Ranger Reject and going through all my thoughts on that, because it is a lot less consistent than quintessential quintuplets, and I can never really shake the feeling that it's just poorly written a lot of times. Like, there's a lot of, like, what the fuck is even going on? Am I supposed to, like, remember, like, there's too many characters who all serve, like, these really bit parts, and a lot of them kind of go through the same beats frequently, and it makes them less dynamic. Like, I have a lot of complaints about the last few arcs of Ranger Reject. I'm hoping it sticks to the landing. I really liked. I don't know if it's the most recent chapter, but it's the most recent chapter I read, which was D revealing himself to it's a huge battle royale, and Greenkeeper is like the final boss, and Suzukiri and D have once again teamed up to take down the Rangers, and it's this really great catharsis moment. As someone who's been there since day one and has read week to week, most weeks, with very few exceptions, like the last few weeks where I let myself fall behind, and then it went on hiatus, and I just stayed behind. It's fun. It's a good read. But I do have my complaints, and I will air out those complaints after this arc is over. Even if this doesn't end up being the final arc, I will do some kind of like stream where I talk about the most recent arc. Naki Nagi, the new manga by the creator of Shikimori's Not Just a Cutie. It recently wrapped up its first arc, and I caught up with that, and it got a lot darker than I thought it would. Nakika had to save Nagisa and the rest of the school from a mermaid who was playing using her magic to play this kind of like twisted game, all in an attempt to goad Nakika into killing her, because mermaids are supposed to be immortal in this world. They're supposed to live forever, and this mermaid, she wants to die, and Nikika is infamous in the undersea community as being the only person in recorded history to have successfully killed a mermaid. And there is some drama involved in that. Like every time that this mermaid princess brought up, the look on Nikika's face is just horrified. Like, I'm not actually convinced she's the one that killed the mermaid princess. I'm not actually convinced that the mermaid princess is dead because there is something weird going on with Nagisa that has not been explained or really adequately explored. We're still early on. There's only like 13 chapters. Like most stories at this point would still be introducing the main cast. Uh, but it's such a vibe. The volume one cover recently came out, and it's such a. I'm gonna pull it up here real quick. Naki Nagi volume one cover. Yeah, that's the volume one cover. Nikika looks so cool. She's so peak character design. Freaking Keigo Maki knows how to draw himself some cool female characters. Uh, I might actually like the way she looks more than Shikimori, which is saying something because they have like a lot of the same facial features, different eye color, different hair color, and hairstyle, obviously, but you can definitely tell that they are drawn by the same person or created by the same person to fulfill a very similar role. Because Nikika is to Nagisa what Shikimori was to Yu Izumi in a lot of ways. The main difference is that Shikimori and Yu Izumi were 100% in love, whereas Nikika and Nagisa are uh, mostly platonic. This is like I can't believe it's not Yuri. This is I don't read a lot of Yuri manga. I would have to ask Raymond for his expert opinion on this, but I can't imagine a more I can't believe it's not Yuri manga than this because look at these two. Look at how they're holding hands. Like look at how happy she is. Look at how she is just giving the audience this evil eye as she innocently like reaches out to us and just tell me that they are not fucking gay. But they're not. Like she's totally in love with this other dude in their class, and Nikika is most likely asexual or at least like aromantic. Uh, averse to the whole concept of dating, which I like. I actually really like that as a character trait more and more as I get older. Because it's God. There's a whole main article I want to get into at DanDaDan, and I've already been going for over 30 minutes talking about Nagi now. Um, I need to show my face because I need y'all to know how serious I am about this. For a long time, in rom-coms, the main excuse used for why characters wouldn't get together is stupidity. The dense anime protagonist trope. That, on top of being just really annoying and frustrating, and leads to stories getting padded out way further than they need to, with less fertile ground for character growth and characterization and backstory and stuff. Nowadays, I've seen more and more, and this has led to what I have been calling the golden age of rom-coms in anime. With stories like Quintessential Quintuplets, the Tying the Knot with the Amagami sisters, Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian, Makaine, uh, the My Dress Up Darling kinda is that like these characters are not dense. They are not oblivious to the feelings of others. They either just don't care or they are scared. Fear and apathy are far more realistic and compelling emotions to build a character arc off of. It's a far better tool for writers, or far better like a utility than, oh, they're just stupid. Like I vastly prefer that. This quintessential quintuplets was the first time I encountered that, and it's one of the reasons why I fell in love with that series so hard. Was the fact that it's in episode 2 actually, where Miku calls Futuro out to the roof, and he thinks that she's gonna confess to him because he's not oblivious to how weird she's being, and he knows the signs. Like he is socially aware enough to know what that sort of stuff means and what that sort of stuff tends to lead to, and he is just completely against it. Like he is hyping himself up to just completely reject her and break her heart, even if it like means compromising his job. And that's the source of conflict for him. Like, oh man, like if she's gonna ask me out, like she's not if he is convinced that she's gonna ask him out, and he is trying to decide like whether he should just play along to placate her feelings and help get her grades up, or if he should just be honest and reject her. And then that's the character arc. Like the story of quintessential quintuplets is about Futuro learning to love other people. And Alia, I think, does an even better job at this specific aspect. I think quintessential quintuplets is still the best rom com ever written. But Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian is even better at this aspect because, like, Alia is the last person to realize her own feelings. Like, she actually has a pretty accurate idea of how Masachika feels about her and Yuki. The conflict there is that she doesn't know that Yuki and Masachika are related, so she assumes that this closeness that they have is romantic and not like a sibling bond. Like, she is just working with inadequate information on that, and she realizes that like she is socially aware enough to realize that Masachika does care more about Yuki than he does her, which stokes this like sense of rivalry because again she's worked with incomplete information, uh, and this kind of like blooming like romance between the two of them are with Yuki coming between, like it creates this kind of complicated situation with all three of them. But like Yuki knows right off the bat, like Masachika has the hots for Alia, and Masachika is well aware that he finds Alia incredibly attractive, but he doesn't jump at it, and he also is aware that Alia is flirting with him. Obviously, that's the premise of the show. Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian, except she's not doing a good job hiding it because he also speaks Russian. Um, but like minor spoiler for season 2, which is coming out in early 2026. But at the end of volume 4, Masachika realizes that like, oh, this isn't just some kind of like game to her. This isn't just her flirting or her being like physically attracted to me. Like she's actually in love with me. Like Masachika learns relatively early on in the series, volume 4. You know, it's right after the season 1 ends, that Alia is actually in love with him. And Yuki's already realized it too. She realizes it as early as volume 2. Like she spends the entirety of volume 4 like just getting frustrated at Alia for not realizing it herself. And Masha obviously has it pegged from volume 1. Like, oh, you just light up so much when you talk about Kuze-kun. You better sort out your feelings soon. If someone steals them from you, there's nothing you can do about it. Uh, but Alia herself doesn't actually become aware of like what, like she's aware of what she feels for Masachika. She just doesn't know that what she's feeling is love because it's the first time she's ever been in love. She doesn't really realize it until Volume 8, which will be in halfway through season 3 if it continues on its 12 episodes a season trend. Ashbury, and I know you asked this a while ago. You asked about To Be Hero X. I have not watched it. I'm not interested in the way that power system works. I'm not interested in the art style. I just nothing about it has really like captured my attention and convinced me that it's worth watching. So I've not even tried that out yet, and I might never get a chance to because there's too many shows coming out right now. Speaking of which, it's time for the main article. Finally, after 40 minutes, DanDaDan Season 2, the premiere, did not go the way I thought it would. People are really dumb about DanDaDan. And this is the point I really want to make. This is the title of the show, of this episode of the Media's Live Show. DanDaDan, Gatekeeping Illiterate Media Literacy. I have talked in the past a lot about how people refuse to accept stories on their own terms. They always try to project their own feelings onto something, their own history onto something, their own interpretation onto something, whether that interpretation is valid or not. They always want to view it through the lens of feminism, just as an example. What does this mean? Like trying to read meaning into otherwise innocuous things. Like King Kong isn't allowed to just be a fun escapist adventure film. It has to be about racism because it was made in the 30s, and the 30s were, Jim Crow laws and everything else. And even though none of the people who worked on King Kong were involved in any of that or lived in any state where those were actually things, like Marion C. Cooper's from New York, which was I need to fact check this before I finish this point. Yeah, New York made segregation illegal in 1920, 13 years before King Kong came out. I had to fact check that because I wasn't sure if it had ever been segregated or not. I just knew that it wasn't segregated at the time that King Kong was coming out. Marion C. Cooper. Cooper was actually from California, so I did get that wrong. But yeah, like it's. I'm trying to like rationalize this and keep it in a way that is just about DanDaDan. Um, there was a lot of this discourse in season 1 as well, as this first episode of season 2, um, which is its willingness to let the villains assault the main female character. I think evil characters should be allowed to do evil things, and I think deep down, and I know, like I know this is true, and I know from like my experiences, people that I've met, the fact that I grew up in a house full of girls who this was a subject that would get brought up every so often. The most evil thing a man can do to a woman is assault them. The most evil thing anyone can do to anyone is sexually assault them. Because like I can't really speak from experience on this. I can only speak from like a philosophical distance. Uh, and I know I'm preaching to the choir on this one. I know anybody who's watching this stream right now or watching this VOD later on. Um, I know y'all are based. I know y'all know me and know what I'm about and know how I roll. And so I'm preaching to the choir on this, but it has to be articulated that anyone can be a victim. I oftentimes think about Terry Crews. Terry Crews is he's an actor and celebrity, not a great actor, but he's a lot of fun. Big action star type guy who is also in a lot of screwball comedies. He was assaulted by a woman at a point in his life, and he was ashamed of it, and he was not allowed to open up, and he felt like he wasn't allowed to open up because anytime he did, he would get laughed at. Uh, and this is sadly not a new thing for society. This goes like all the way back in biblical times. You had the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis, where Joseph was a servant of in Egypt. He was a slave, and the master's wife came on to him and tried seducing him. He rejected her, and then she accused him of things that got him thrown in prison. The court systems have always heavily favored female victims or women who claim to be victims. This is a tale as old as time. Um, what I like about the way it is handled in DanDaDan is Momo's agency. The fact that she does beat some ass. Like she straight up pulps this dude's face with a knee at one point. She's powerful. She's capable. She's smart. She's strong willed. She's a badass. She's one of the most powerful characters in the show. And yet, she's still a victim. There are times, and I think this is an important lesson, particularly for young men who kind of go through this stuff, because there's this kind of fear of like, uh, it's a different dynamic. Like when women are put in those situations, the fear is I can't do anything about it. Women tend to be smaller framed, less muscle density, yada yada yada. The fear for women is that like I am powerless. The fear for men is that if they use their power, they're the ones who get in trouble. So a lot of times when men are in those situations, they don't even try to fight back. Because all it takes is the woman to be like, oh, he attacked me first. I have the black eye to prove it, yada, or something like that. And suddenly, they're the ones who go to prison, even though they're the victims. And that is a horrible aspect of our court system and how it heavily favors one side of the story over the other. And again, this is not new. This has been a thing for thousands of years. And DanDaDan is what made me kind of reflect on that because of how powerful and strong and capable Momo is, and the fact that she is a woman just kind of like further highlights the fact that like doesn't really matter. A victim is a victim. It doesn't matter how if they can fight back or if they're able or if they should fight back or um, this is something this is important to me as a writer, particularly with one of my characters, Rachel, who is very similar, or gets put in very similar situations at an early age. More so in backstory. A big part of the Nephilim strain, her entire B plot is like coming a little too close to death because of that, and trying to like form more meaningful bonds with the Agents of Night Watch in order to protect herself. Um, Because Rachel is a character who, if she were to like lock in and train, she'd be one of the most powerful people in the entire Night Watch verse. Like, even untrained and stuff, she is a handful. Like, when she goes into her Hexenjäger form, she is a handful, even for like seasoned veteran mages like Chris Crimson and Sir Nightwatch. Uh, but that doesn't matter because she is afraid of using that strength to defend herself. She doesn't want to hurt anyone. She certainly doesn't want to kill anyone, and so she just lets these things happen. And she's also like a natural born people pleaser. She's always trying to diffuse these situations and do whatever it takes to like keep people from worrying about her. This is why she self medicates and pays for that self medication by giving up her autonomy and then lying to herself to say that she does still have that autonomy, but she's just lying to herself because it's a coping mechanism for her. Sorry for the heavy subject, especially with my book, and I'm not even fully convinced that I did that content justice in my book. It's one of those things that like every time I address it, I try to like smooth it out a little bit more. Uh, in the Golden Key especially will further address why Rachel was put in those situations in the first place and what she's doing to like prevent herself from being put in those situations ever again. Um, but there's only so much you can do, but there's only so much you can do. Anything can happen, but you can't like let that be a reason to just bury your head in the sand and do nothing. Like, you can't just let your own survival instincts prevent you from living life. Uh, but people online are too stupid to understand that, so they see like people rightfully praising Science Saru's animation, being like, "Oh, you only like this because it's Gooner bait, or you only like this because you secretly want to be like the villains and put your hands on a teenage girl." And then get a knee to the face that busts your face open and makes you spray black blood everywhere. See, these allegories and allegations of allegories break down when you think about it for more than 3 seconds. Like, yeah, she was assaulted. Yeah, there's that one panel from one of the first chapters of DanDaDan that was in the first episode of DanDaDan with the aliens like holding her down. Like, but like when you take that bit out of context, you're removing it from what happens literally 3 seconds later when Okaru, possessed by a turbo granny, bursts through the phone and literally chews that dude in half. Because there's escapists in this sort of thing. There's this wishful thinking that, like, oh man, if I do get put in that situation, I would love to have telekinetic powers to just throw a dude through a wall. Or I would love to have a friend who just rushes in and rips this dude in half. Or so on and so forth. Um, Obviously, we don't have that level of stuff. And the Good Samaritan angle stuff is exceedingly rare. But it is wishful thinking. And it is this hopefulness that keeps people from like kind of giving into their own fears. Uh, Other than that, DanDaDan season 2 was an excellent episode. I just wish that more people would actually just stop projecting their own stupidity onto an otherwise excellent show. And I wish that this wasn't the case. I wish that no show developed that kind of reputation without deserving it. Which DanDaDan does not deserve to be called like Gooner Bait. It is a much better show than that. Uh, I want to kind of check on this. Sorry. Responding to messages. Yeah. It's also obvious sometimes when people don't actually watch the show. But yeah, like it's as Barry said, it was mainly the Boruto fans rage baiting with that image of Momo for clout. I'm not really part of the Boruto fandom, so I'll take your word for it. I do remember hearing that though, and I remember that like I don't know much about Chibi reviews. I've seen some of his videos. I watched some. I actually watched a lot of his content back in the day, like 10 years ago. Right before I started my own channel. Because my channel's been going on for almost 9 years now. Like, gonna start having to put on Crypt Keeper makeup. Um, but yeah, evil characters should be allowed to be evil, and there should also be like some intrigue there. Like a generic evil villain is oftentimes boring, but it's because they don't have any like conviction. Like an evil character who has like some kind of conviction is always a little more interesting. Like One Piece does this a lot. Like One Piece is really great about this. Like there's the Big Mom quote, like even in the world of pirates there are standards. Like Big Mom is a monster. She's a horrible person. She threatens to like have Zeph's head chopped off and put in a box and delivered to the Straw Hats if Sanji doesn't like comply with her wedding invitation. But she doesn't like it when people mess with kids. Doflamingo is as monstrous as they come. He is evil and manipulative. He killed his own brother and his own father, and he went through this entire like quarter life crisis all because his dad wouldn't let him have slaves. Uh, and he overthrew this entire kingdom in order to emulate Emu and the Gorosei and create his own like twisted version of Mary Joie where he's allowed to have slaves all because of his own freaking ego. Like he believes he is entitled to slaves, and but if you laugh at his crewmates he'll kill you. Like he loves his crewmates, the ones that are fully loyal to him anyway. Like, and he always extends a hand out to people and gives them a chance to work under him. And there's a little bit of stuff to respect there. Even in something like Freerin with the demons, like the Freerin demons have been lauded by idiots online for being like, oh, generic evil, blah 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 blah. But then you get characters like Kroll and Lugner, who they're demons. Lugner is a hard worker. Like he isn't super talented. He actually hates super talented people. He doesn't understand them. He despises Freerin, Flom, and Fern for being like these geniuses who just skate by on their own talent and didn't have to work as hard as him for it. Uh, that's a compelling character trait, especially in a world like Freerin with characters like the demons. Then you get characters like Kroll, who is not super powerful. Uh, Kroll is only in one episode, and it's to kind of show, and it's an episode that's kind of built on like, oh, humanity's magic has come really far in just 80 years. Kroll used to be this unstoppable threat that Freerin had to petrify in order to stop, and now he can just get like one tap by Fern. Except he doesn't. Because one of the coolest parts of that entire episode is the first time Fern blocks his Zoltrak and he starts scratching his chin and starts like kind of like waving his fingers, kind of like experimenting with his own defensive magic, and he figures it out. He figures out the ins and outs and every single little bit of weakness in that defensive magic in like 3 seconds. And Freer is like, we gotta kill this dude now because we cannot have a prolonged fight with this dude. He will and it even gets reflected later on in the story when Frieren says like, "There's only 10 mages who have beaten me despite having less mana than me. I've lost to people who have more mana than me a couple times, but that's not important for the purpose of what I'm saying now. There's only been 10 people. One of them was an elf, three of them were demons, one of which was Kroll, and the other six were humans. Like, there is no human who has as much mana as Frieren, and yet six of them have managed to beat her because of the strength of humans, which I've talked about before, where it's like Frieren loves its human characters. It's not like the other fantasy races are humans plus plus. The humans living closer to death and having shorter lifespans is actually a source of their strength that allows them to progress rapidly generation to generation and adapt much quicker than elves or demons can. And it's excellent for that. But like the fact that she brings up Kroll and that, like, yeah, I buy that. Kroll is a genius. Like, he has a immense respect for the art of magic and for the art of adaptation with magic. Like, and he managed to figure out how Fern was able to block Zoltrak, and not just figure out how, but figure out the weakness of it and then start exploiting it. So that Frieren had to like fly and blast him from above before he could adapt any further. Like, it's just excellent writing all around. Uh, and it makes Kroll and by extension the other demons more interesting. It's something that, like, going into season 2, I'm gonna be keeping an eye on. Like, what is the culture of these demons? Like, we know they're individualistic. We know they don't have family structure. We know that they adhere to a very strict power hierarchy. But are there any other ones like Kroll who have a little something more going on under the hood, who are a little bit smarter, or a little bit more talented, or a little more quick to adapt? Are there any other ones like Lugner who get angry and frustrated at defeat and are desperate to claw their way into validation? Like, are there any more like that? And I heard there is. Like, I heard that a big part of this coming season is going to be someone named Mocked, I think. I don't know much about it. I haven't read actual spoilers. I just know that a character named Mocked exists. And I've seen a single panel where Frieren is talking to him, and she's like, the more you try to coexist, the more lives you ruin, which is a fair point within the world of Frieren and with the demons, because the demons exist to be adversaries of humanity. And that's how they are in the Bible too. Or like, the demons are just adversaries. They exist purely to give humans something to fight against. In the Bible, it's a spiritual battle, but in Frieren, it's a physical one. Ashbury said, "Oh, the DanDaDan fandom hates GB reviews. GB took one panel out of context and they doxed him for it." Yeah, I heard about that. Uh, Not a fan. Not a fan of doxing. Yeah, a lot of times, the uncomfortable parts of art are the parts that get emphasized because it's trying to be evocative, trying to make you think, it's trying to like make you pay attention and prevent you from just like closing your eyes and ears and going like, this ain't real, this isn't happening, these are all just fake characters, da 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 da. Uh, Anything else I wanted to add to that conversation? Oh, the whole gatekeeping thing. Like, there's this idea that like you should gatekeep your hobbies, which is honestly becoming more and more valid, because more and more throughout the years, and this is starting to happen with anime now, or has started to happen with anime over the last 5 years, where uh something gets successful and then people who aren't in the in crowd want to like infiltrate it and take it over and destroy the thing that made it good or interesting in the first place. One of the things I did this week was watch Razorfist's 2 hour long documentary, what is effectively a documentary on Joseph McCarthy. How Joseph McCarthy tried to expose communists in American politics and eventually got censored for it because he was stepping on a lot of toes and because he was. There's the idea that like McCarthy went too far. McCarthy, in many ways, didn't go far enough. He tried playing too much by the rules. So many of the McCarthy hearings were not actually conducted by McCarthy. They were actually against McCarthy regarding his investigation. This is something that Razorfist points out and uses the actual documents and stuff to prove. But I would say he went too far in the wrong direction. He should have switched gears and played a different route in order to accomplish more. One of the things that really screwed him over was President Eisenhower being not a communist by any means, not a socialist by any means, but like too eager to defend military men who were. Joseph McCarthy basically made it personal when he started targeting communists within the military, communist infiltrators who would later be exposed as having had ties to the Kremlin. Every single thing that Joseph McCarthy accused people of doing ended up being validated whenever the Iron Curtain fell and the KGB files became public knowledge. He was absolutely 100% vindicated in all of that. And Eisenhower played defense for them even more than Harry Truman did. And Truman was anti-communist, but a lot of that was more so to placate the masses. I always get the impression that Truman didn't care as much. He wasn't a communist, but he knew that there were people in his party who were, and so he tried to placate to them and run damage control in order to like get his agenda stuff passed. Which is also how Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy conducted business as well. They compromised a lot of their actual ideals in order to get things done. It comes with the territory a lot of times, especially for the office of president. But yeah, a lot of times, like more and more, like you're seeing these different communities let people in, and then the people like, oh, you're no longer allowed to have like these types of stereotypes. You're no longer allowed to portray this content. You're no longer allowed to say these words. You're no longer allowed to use these. We're deeming these words offensive. We're deeming these jokes offensive. You can no longer have this skin tone. You can no longer have a white male lead. You can no longer have a decent portrayal of religion. You can no longer have the Muslims as the bad guys. You can no longer have Jews as bankers. You can no longer have this. You can no longer have that. And then slowly it just erodes at the identity of these IPs. And so it is important to like keep these people out. DanDaDan would not be DanDaDan without its very careful portrayal of assault and victimhood, and the sexual undertones. Just like going back to what I spent half this live show talking about, Call of the Night. Call of the Night would be completely toothless, pardon the pun, if not for the whole like angsty teenager going through puberty and having the hots for a girl for the first time. Like, Call of the Night story just would not happen without that. That is the main inspiration and theme for Call of the Night. Just like the the evil villains being evil and showing that they're evil by assaulting Momo is a major component of DanDaDan. You can't have DanDaDan without addressing that. Like, you can have a show without addressing that. You can sanitize it. I am in favor of self censorship. Like, if the censorship comes from a genuine creative choice, that is good. Like, we should have more stuff that doesn't have vulgar language. We should have more art that doesn't have nudity, or we should have more books that don't have sex scenes. One of my personal challenges for the Agents of Night Watch is that I never describe the female character's breasts. It's not that I'm averse to it. I did it throughout my fan fictions. No, I wrote just that casually, which is all about stuff like that. I wrote my rom-coms are going to have a lot of that when I get around to actually putting work into Cafe Diem and the other stuff I have planned. But for the Agents of Night Watch, and for this like selectively omniscient narrator, the characters' proportions and their cup sizes is not an important detail. And so I am never like, I'll find like innuendos and subterfuge ways to describe their body type, but I'm never using the word boobs. The word boob will never appear in Night Watch unless it already has, and I just missed it in editing. But it's something I'm making a conscious choice of. I am fact checking. Yeah, grand selection. I'm actually going to prove it. This is my e-copy of the grand selection. I have let me shrink this down so you can see that I have Control F, word, BOOB, boob, never appears. Breast, never appears. Chest appears 7 times. And as you can see, this first is actually the second mention. It's just the closest I was where I was at on the scroll, is talking about an animal's chest. Nephilim strain. This is the Nephilim strain. F. Boob. Never appears. Breast. Never appears. Chest also appears 7 times. Or no, more time. It's coming. 25? 25 times. I use the word chest. In grand selection, most recent book, boob does not appear at all. Breast does not appear at all. Let me exit out of this and pull up the golden key, which is in a completely different file. And I want to be a little more careful on avoiding spoilers for this. Boob does not appear at all. Breast only appears once, and it's part of the term breastless leather coat. And talking about a male character. That is a personal writing challenge on my part. The word boob will never appear in the Agents of Night Watch. Boob, boobs, boobies, any permutation of that. There may be just, maybe like assets that might be used. There's various instances where a beautiful woman be like, I am allowed to be picky when I look like this. There's one moment that comes to mind where Eliza is talking to Angelica, and Eliza gets like self-conscious because Angelica is so much taller and filled out compared to her, and Eliza's coping mechanism is being like, I'd rather not be weighed down. And that is the only like inclination I put into the grand selection about like, okay, Eliza's older sister and her mother are curvier women, and she is flat as a pancake. That's the only innuendo I use in stating that fact. And I bring it around to like the concept and the feeling of Eliza being the ugly duckling of her family, which is also set up for a revelation later on in that book that I will not spoil here. But if you've actually read The Ugly Duckling, you might be able to pick up on some similarities between The Ugly Duckling and Eliza, especially with how things play out. But I made that choice for my own sake. Not because someone told me to, not because I'm a prude, not because I'm against the portrayal of beautiful women. No, it's because I thought it would be a fun challenge for me personally to have a book series, a long book series with tons and tons of strong female characters who are all like strong-willed in of various shapes and sizes without using that word. I thought it was an interesting challenge. That is why I took it upon myself. Any other thoughts on this subject? Yeah, I think I'm actually gonna call it a day this time. Shorter stream than last time, but had less to talk about. I had less things I did this week. Next week, uh, I'm gonna have to talk about the things I missed this week, as well as I'm trying to see the new Jurassic World movie. I've not heard good things about it, and I already have a rant in my back pocket for that because I already know that even if I end up really liking Jurassic World Rebirth, there's one thing I know from the trailers and the marketing and stuff that makes the rant I have in store still a valid complaint. And it has to do with the whole like not using actual dinosaurs as the main antagonists. Um, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for joining me again. Next week, something a little different. You know what? And maybe next week we'll be able to get the guys together and talk about the Ruby Volume 10 announcement. Until then, thank you again and have a good night.